What is
That was
if you're able, are you able to talk about behind the scenes stuff on it?
Sure, why not? What are they gonna do?
I don't know how I feel about Noah Kahan. And you've worn that shirt a lot recently. Now, I think I have a good reason.
Anna's ears are as perked up as they can be.
And that's fair, and it's reasonable. Because Maggie also, I think, last time I checked, Maggie likes him, but I think she might not anymore. And I hear her moving, so we'll get a look. But Anna, this is a good opportunity to ask you: is she in the room?
She can hear you if that's what you're
Anna,
asking.
has there ever been a time where you've wanted to like something, but you don't because of how much someone you don't like likes it?
She's thinking.
Because that is my experience with Noah Kahan.
It's Noah Khan.
Noah Kahan.
Like Khan.
Noah Kahan. Maggie, do you still like Noah Kahan? It's been ruined for her. See? Yep, I told you.
Okay, I think I get where you're going.
Yes, you see what I'm throwing down on the table here.
So you also hate like water and breathing?
We're recording a podcast, but what I said was, have you ever wanted to like something, but don't because of how much someone you don't like likes that thing? That they like ruin it for you almost.
Will you like it again when you find out how much someone you do likes it?
In this particular instance, I'm just not really into that type of music. I really like the one hit that he has, but then it reminds me about the COVID times. I just like
the one hit. He's got many hits, but
the one that I know, Stick Season, Maggie says, is the name of the song.
Yes, I figured that's the one you were talking about. But you're living with a glass half empty life there, Tim.
So you think I should listen to one of his albums? And
I think
Maggie loves his music, but it's ruined for you, you said.
That's fair.
What about you, Nick?
About Noah Kahan?
Yeah, talk about that for a second.
Oh.
I want to kiss my wife goodnight. My God, Nick. Get a
okay. Okay. Anna. How great is Noah Kahan? This was like the first guy we listened to when we like first started dating. It was like the first concert we went to, and
so you've seen him. Is he good live?
Yes, he's very good. He's good. Like I
feel like he's unique.
He's unique. People call him Folk Malone. He's like the folk.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Post Malone. I think he's akin. I think he's kind of akin to like the modern day James Taylor.
Like that, or like early.
Which I haven't heard anyone else call him that. I thought that was my thing, but
I'm saying I could see it. But like also very early, like Bob Dylan, like folk, that type of folky. I don't get me wrong, incredibly talented. Like his voice is melodic and beautiful, and clearly super talented. I'm just not into that type of music.
Sure, because you're dumb.
Sure. No, it's just, I can appreciate it. I just like, it's not my thing. But
I can see where like if you're into Mayday Parade or all, like an all-time low and stuff, then like why wouldn't then like
he's a big Green Day, Blink 182 kind of guy.
Yeah, so I can respect.
I would argue there's crossover, but that's fine.
My favorite band right now, new band, is a band called Arm's Length. They have one album out and a few EPs, and I'm very, very very into it. I like it a lot. But I was telling you earlier, another band that I really like is called Grayscale. They just put out an album.
Yeah.
I think Anna would like it. The album is called The Heart.
Wow, how original.
HART.
Like Kevin.
Like in WandaVision. Mr. and Mrs. Hart.
See, those are things I hate because they're bad, not because other people don't like them.
WandaVision, you're saying?
The MCU after Endgame minus Spider-Man No Way Home. But yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mine's the opposite. I like things because other people like them.
What'd you say?
Said she's the opposite. She likes things because other people like them. So she can't think for herself?
I mean, I get that though. Like there's when things are popular for a reason. I find that when it's music related though, I tend not to fall into the populist group.
In middle school, the kid I had a crush on hated Taylor Swift. Therefore, I decided that I also hated Taylor Swift.
Bro, I hate Taylor Swift, and we're getting married. Why do you still like her?
Because you're you. I'm not. Because I'm not.
But I'm not her high school boyfriend.
It was middle school.
8th grade boyfriend, of course.
It was middle school. Yeah, Jesus.
Wow, whatever.
This is riveting content.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're doing this. You have a new setup.
Yeah, I do.
You're facing a different way. Now, I have a few questions about it.
Sure.
A couple joking, a couple serious. What would you like first?
You said a couple of each?
Yes. What would you like to
Let's alternate.
Let's alternate. Okay. Why do you feel the need to have Mr. Data stare at us for the entirety of all things going forward forever?
Because he called me a fine human.
To Nick a
and I need to be reminded of that sometimes.
I have a funny story about that.
What?
Okay.
Tim has a lot of questions. What?
Wait, so someone on Sunday asked me if that was Charlie Sheen.
Somebody kill me. Oh my God.
Did you guys have a party and someone said that?
Yeah, who was it? Who are we not friends with anymore?
I can't remember.
Don't you lie to me. You can't remember.
Okay, now a serious question. You've got wands.
I do.
It looks like one is missing.
There is. I have 9 wands.
Where is the missing one? That's not my question, but where is the missing one?
It's missing. It's not. I have 9 wands.
It's not purchased yet.
Oh, but it looks like there's room for another one.
Yeah, what are you missing? I have 9.
There are 10 slots.
Yeah, so why don't you get it? Why isn't it up one, that 10th one?
Oh, that's a good question. Because each wand has its place, Tim.
Oh.
Sirius Black Swan deserves like the number 1 spot. The Elder Wand obviously is above all. And then each one was placed with particular reason.
Okay, that's fair. I was going to ask you, what is your favorite of the wands and why did you start collecting them?
Sirius Black Swan is my favorite.
Okay.
It's cool. It's got some like engravings all along it.
I have 1 wand, by the way.
That's not enough. And why did I start collecting them? Because Anna bought me one and I have no self-control. We don't keep snacks around the house, Tim, because when we keep snacks around the house, they're gone very quickly because I eat them all.
Same.
I have a lot of self-control in preventing the action, but once the action is available, can't do it. So like I never bought wands. I never bought Legos. Yes. Inertia. Yes. Newton's third. It might be his 7th law, I think. Just making shit up. But now that I've been given Legos and I built them and I was given a wand and then I went into the wand shop at Orlando Universal Studios and saw all the wands, I was like, the bag of chips is open.
Yeah, correct. Okay, next question.
Yes.
There's another picture over to your other side where I could see you in a graduation gown. Now, don't move it. I know who on the other side of that picture is. Why are you hiding it from everyone? What don't you want people to know?
That person may not want to be on the internet, first of all. Second of all, it just kind of happened to land.
We know it's Pinchuck. We know it's Jack handing you that diploma.
Yes.
Is that you grabbing your diploma? What is going on over there?
Yes, I'm holding the diploma in the graduation photo.
That is I'm saying, was that you posing for like with your parents or something, or was it graduation? Like the actual...
No, you said you knew. Oh, you don't actually know who
I was joking. That was one of the joke questions.
Oh, I thought this was the serious one. Apologies. No, it's like a friend I graduated with.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Male or female?
Male. I have a fiance.
You can't have female friends if you have a fiance?
No, I just you looked at me disappointed, and I was like, no, I succeeded.
All right.
I did it.
Final question. You like to put off this aura like you're a comic fan by hanging these comics. Now, I do know that you enjoy the comic books. You have taught me many a thing about the comic book over the years, as I am just a feeble movie fan. But and this is half serious and half joking. The serious part is, why these comics in particular? Is it just because it's the ones you had? Or is it because they mean something to you? And B, I thought you were a crazy white man who hated She-Hulk. So why would you hang up a She-Hulk comic book?
That's funny. I am a crazy white man. That is unrelated to those things. That's just a statement of fact.
Yeah,
funny enough, other than She-Hulk up here and this Captain America one.
And I know you like Carnage.
But... I haven't read these ones.
Really?
Yeah. When we were in Universal. No, I'm not a faker. I used to read comics. I never really collected them. I read them digitally for a while once they became available digitally.
I would buy the omnibuses.
I'm sure. But these ones I bought while we were in Universal because they have a Marvel section of Universal, but not like an MCU. It's like a Marvel like comics. And
that Incredible Hulk coaster is dope.
It made me very sick when we went on it. They had a comic shop, and I was like, oh, sick, let me buy a couple of these. And I bought a couple of them, and at the time, I was like, these would look great up on the wall. So I decided not to, like, break, because they're all in, like, plastic new stuff. So I decided not to, like, break them open. And I hung them on the wall. So
yeah. What do you all have up there? So you got.
But I picked them because they are characters whose comics I like to read. So
Moon Knight,
Black Panther, Daredevil, 2 Captain Americas, She-Hulk. The white man, crazy. The show is hot garbage.
Yes.
Which I can objectively say.
I agree. Like objectively, just as
it's just terrible
general,
and not good at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Beyond the political statements it's trying to make, it also destroys the MCU by saying there's a freaking robot writing all the stories, and She-Hulk has, above everyone else, has the power to exit the MCU and tell the robot how the stories should go. So you ruined one of the things I loved most.
What?
Yeah, that happens. That's why we're never watching that show.
And I've seen it.
And it's even worse because for the same reason I hate Let There Be Carnage, She-Hulk is a freaking awesome comic book character. And she was ruined. So,
and the funny thing is like, not to get on a whole tangent about the MCU, but which actually might be a good conversation with our guest, because I know that he's also very into this stuff. But I like the actress, like Tatiana Maslany. I think
she's great.
I think she's good.
The trailers for the show, I thought it was going to be good.
I did not hate. I know you probably disagree. I did not hate the first episode. I didn't love it, but I liked it enough. The thing that I really didn't like about it is the whole thing of like, we spent years and years and years with Banner, like getting over anger and everything, and then she can just like turn it on and turn it off instantly because she's a woman. Like, okay, I didn't like that angle. Yeah. But on the whole, the interactions with Bruce, the training montage.
I didn't love it, but it didn't ruin the show immediately for me.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that episode enough to make me go, this could be okay. Mm-hmm. And honestly, and I mean this sincerely, I would be, if the finale didn't exist and the rest of the show was exactly the same. Like, let's say that the finale happens where it there's a moment in the finale, and if you're with us here and you understand what we're talking about, you're with us. But there's a moment in the finale where she decides to exit the Disney Plus app. But prior to that, if they had done all of that, which I still think, and the show acknowledges, is bad, I would have at least said this was a total misfire of a show that I don't like. But at least it doesn't do anything
correct
that I can ignore it and move on.
Right.
But what you said kind of hits it on the head. And luckily I've forgotten about it, and I kind of just try to forget about it. But that ending really does break like everything. And they play it off as a joke. And this is, again, stupid, crazy white boys complaining. But at the same time, it's something that
who cares? Like, tell me what I'm saying is wrong.
No, I agree. No, I agree with you, and I'm saying that I agree with you in the sense that, like, it just like, why would it just it baffles.
It's just crazy to write a show that is intentionally bad so that your character can exit the app and change the ending.
But not even intentionally bad. It does.
Yes, it is, because she comes out and says, "Hey,
I agree.
This is bad."
I'm saying not even that. Not even
got me
just
started
that.
on She-Hulk, and we have a guest coming.
Not even just that. I'm saying that, like, on top of that, it does the thing that I think people. This is going to be a bad analogy because I like The Last Jedi. I know you don't. But a lot of people look at that movie as Rian Johnson was intentionally trying to, like, hurt Star Wars fans.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think that's the case.
I don't think so.
But people think there are people who have.
I think he was intentionally trying to do something different from Star Wars, and it didn't work.
But She-Hulk is on.
There's malice.
The creators and the writers and everyone, except maybe not the actors, but who knows? But the writers and the creators especially are on record saying, like, their goal was to piss off the fans.
Which is a dumb.
Why would you do that?
And that's why Disney's tanking right now.
I just don't understand why you would do that, because, like, the misses of like Thor: Love and Thunder, I don't hate it. I don't like it. I think it's very meh.
It's bad.
There are parts of it I really like, and there are parts of it that I hate. But Taika comes out and says, yeah, we kind of had free reign to do whatever we wanted, and we did whatever we wanted, and it didn't really work. And okay, I can at least respect.
Oh, he did say that? That's
cool. Yeah. Him and Hemsworth have said, like, yeah, we went a little too far.
I know Chris Hemsworth's not a big fan of it right now, but
yeah, Taika has too. They've both said, like, yeah, we went a little far on that one. Like, those types of things, like, I can get behind. Of people being like, this particular project didn't pan out.
Right.
It's the spitting in the face of the fans on purpose just to do it. Like, why? Like, what's the point? Like, I just don't get it.
Just I don't know, man. And just to wrap it up, that is the worst example, but it's kind of how all of their projects have felt.
And you and I differ on that, like,
to some degree, but I've stopped watching. Like, I don't know that I want to watch Daredevil. Like, the trailer looks good, but I don't think I care. Like, I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch anything they put out.
It's not anymore.
And that's fair. And it's whether or not it continues to intrigue me. So, for example, what if season 3 came out? I really don't like the first 2 seasons. So season 3 came out, and I didn't rush to it. But now I'm hearing, and now technically it's not part of the MCU, but the new Spider-Man animated show I've heard is good.
Oh, I've not heard that, but okay.
Oh, I've heard that it's very good.
I've heard the opposite, but
fair. I've heard it's very good, so I want to watch it. I'm watching What If.
That's the other thing is, like, I'm gonna try not to, like, talk about all I will say is things I've heard from other people. Like, I'm not going to render an official judgment on the Spider-Man show because I haven't seen it. But.
Well, and I think you're good about that, because I remember when Agatha came out and you were in the camp of like, this is going to be garbage, and I was like, yeah, you and I both.
Why I didn't.
Yeah, and you and I are both like not huge on WandaVision. Everyone else fucking loves it, and you and I are kind of on the and our guest has just showed up. We'll wrap this up, I promise. But we're not huge on it, and so I was not looking forward to it. And it came out, and I remember watching the first episode and being like, this was pretty okay.
It's okay. It's not the worst.
It's not amazing. It's not incredible.
When your expectations are in the gutter.
Compared to like when the only Disney Plus Marvel stuff I can confidently say I really like up there with some of the movies is the Guardians Holiday Special,
sure,
and Werewolf by Night.
Agreed with that one. Werewolf by Night's the best thing they've done.
Werewolf by Night is the best thing they've done. Give Giacchino a full movie. Like, I would have loved to see him direct Fantastic Four.
Sure.
But anyway, like, and there are shows that I enjoy. Like, I enjoyed Moon Knight, but the ending sucks. I enjoyed Hawkeye, but it doesn't. There's too much going on.
It's just not worth it. It's not worth it.
I enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it ends where it began. Like, what is the point? Like, that's the thing, is like all of these are pointless to the overall MCU, and that's what I miss. So anyway, I guess
perhaps this conversation will continue in a bit because our guest knows quite a bit about the topic at hand. But I definitely have some other questions for him first.
Yes, we do. Our guest is Kevin Feige, producer. No, I'm just kidding. We have
the robot from She-Hulk. Anyway,
which robot from? Oh, that robot.
Yeah, that one.
We got Jacoby Bancroft.
Jacoby's coming on.
Let's go talk.
We got Jacoby Bancroft here, star of Virtual Survivor, star of Pop Culture Jeopardy, star of Fandom Fights, star of so many things. Jacoby, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys. Very happy to be here. Happy to be hanging out with y'all.
Yeah, it should be fun. Where do you want to start, Jacoby? Because I definitely want to ask you about Pop Culture Jeopardy, Survivor,
okay,
and the event that happened yesterday. Last one standing.
I think.
Where are we?
Let's start with last one standing. It's fresh in everybody's
mind.
All right, great.
Gotcha. Last one standing. We're in that zone right now. Yes. We are. Great event.
You did very well at it, spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I did. That was great. I think I did much better than, I usually don't last super long in like the fandom free-for-alls. I last a few rounds and like here and there. And then, but I kind of, just got on a roll, and I got some good swings my way, cleared the table, obviously, in that moment, which was great. Thank you, Kaiser. I always think clearing the table moments are always funny because sure, there's a lot of emphasis on me, but it's always like, but it takes always like the other person as well to like get that right to like do that. So I always think like the second person who causes it is like deserves more recognition, because Kaiser getting that is like great. That's what cleared the way for me.
You and Kaiser got the question and everyone else missed, right?
Yes.
And then we went to Kaiser last, and when he got it too, it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Did you know what was happening? Like,
no,
did you know that, like, when Kaiser hit it, like, that meant that it was clearing the table? Or did you not know until we yelled it?
Because I didn't know I was correct. Because, to be honest, my first thought was John Saxon. I was literally, I was like, it's in the, like, when he says, like, the eye of God, like, I can kind of see that in the, at the funeral scene, and like and it's like something that's like more John Saxon says than what Robert Englund is saying on the phone. But I could not remember John Saxon's name, and I was just like, okay, so if I'm not going to get that, let's be. I don't. Right? She also talks to Robert Englund. I was like, the phrasing of the question, I'm like, maybe this is a little tricky, maybe this is a little fun. So I put Robert Englund. So I didn't know I was correct, which is why I didn't know what was happening.
Jacoby, you are now did you ever think, because fandom, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, has ever been like your main focus, so to speak. but you're now a former champion. Did you ever think that was a possibility, or were you kind of always just like, I'll see who I play, and eventually I'll play Brittany or Joe and lose, but like.
No, yeah, and I never thought I would be a fandom champion. To be honest with you, I know what level of player that I am personally in terms of like what I can get and like the heights that I can reach. Like I can reach to. I can put a lot of studying in. Again, like 2-3 years ago is like when I like really dove in, made my study sheet with all the categories and all the notes, which I still glance at from like time to time to prep. But like that era specifically, like even then, I was like, I can't, like if I get to one of the top dogs, like you two, like during that tear of like, no, like, right.
That's what during that time, me and Tim were the only ones you lost.
Yeah.
You remember that, Tim?
What
was
match
great.
would that have been?
Jacoby played you twice and me twice, but everyone else he beat and like knocked out some of them as well.
Yeah. I was my brain was in teams mode because he former teams champion. I guess that's true. Yeah, that's crazy.
I did a very nice run of sort of things. Then I hit the buzzsaws of like you guys. And I think if I remember, Nick, I was not even close in your match, but I think Tim and I
was about to say I think we were
pretty
close in both. Yeah,
the first one we played, one of the two, it was close, and I remember. Because I spun Jurassic Park, and I had seen all the Jurassic. You were like, that was your thing, was you were the Jurassic Park guy.
Yeah.
And I just like, quite frankly, Coho was writing questions at that time, and I got asked the names of velociraptors. And
that is right. There was a moment where it's like you spun the category. That was just like, I have a shot here, and then I was like, you didn't run away with it as I thought you were going.
I specifically remember being asked like, which velociraptor gets blown up by an RPG?
I'm gonna look now,
and I was like, the Echo Charlie Delta. It's not like they say, "Hey Echo, I'm shooting a rocket at you right now."
Yeah, no.
Hey, I was being asked to discern which velociraptor was standing there. But outside of that, it was also like close in round 1. It went pretty far in round 3. Like it was definitely close.
But I'm looking at this now. You beat Butler. You beat Rizzy.
I was on a great run on that time for things that really surprised me. I was a great
and since then, outside of teams, you've been in singles contender matches. The season's about to start up. You're in the first title picture. Which is a very small amount of people. So like it could be like you and Rue just won your last teams match as well against former champions. So like you're one of the boldest players, and I still have the mug that says "Fortune favors the bold" on
I
it.
smile every time you take a sip out of it, or at least when I'm watching old matches, or
And I think you play off a lot of your success as luck, or like I'm just like I didn't remember John Saxon, so I threw another name down and I happen to be right. But I think there's more just general knowledge behind it than just luck.
You're right. I'm done with that era of myself, which I think probably a lot of us sort of go through in terms of just like, man, I'm a completely lucky player, right? Like that's the only reason I'm doing it. I know, like, yes, to beat the higher, I always count myself as like one of the best B players is like what I always consider myself as, like in terms of like what I can be. So I know I always have the realm to grow or shrink, or I think you said it or made like, I could at one beat really good people, lose to like really bad people. Like, it could go either way there. But like I know I have a good base level, but like, some things have to be lucky in terms of spins or in terms of like I just have to go for it, and that sort of I just have to go for it attitude tends to work out for me more than not, which is what I would have it really weirdly if I like fortune favors the bold, and then it never works out.
That moment is really a lot different if it doesn't work out for me.
Try something else,
I did find the match. It was round 2 of the tournament in 2020. Nick,
you've been doing this for a while.
Nick, you were the 4 seed. Jacoby, you were the 5 seed. It does say it was the second time you guys played, but I can't.
It was,
but I can't find.
We played earlier that year. I remember because we were both undefeated.
Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. So the first time, Nick, you beat Jacoby 17-11.
This was also in a time where the betting round kept going.
Yeah. Nick,
I think at that point I remember there was always like, why are we still?
We were like, all right, 2 points on a movie I've never seen, and
Yeah, but Nick, you only had 63% accuracy in that match. And then when you guys played the second time, Nick, you beat Jacoby 18-16.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
But here's the thing that speaks to Jacoby's power is, Nick, your accuracy was 85%. So marked improvement from your first time.
Yes.
Jacoby's was also an improvement, but Jacoby went from 40% to 60% and still took it.
That's you can literally, Jacoby literally is on the end of one version of Nick and the beginning of another, because what kicked my ass into gear as far as fandom goes, I had wanted to play in the Schmodown before, like that was my reason for doing the trivia thing. So I was really good at geek categories, but if I spun Jurassic Park or something like that, like I was shit out of luck. Then I beat Jacoby, then I lost to Scully. And then when I lost to Scully, I was like, nope, I'm watching every DreamWorks movie. I'm watching every Pixar Disney movie. And then I played Jacoby like almost immediately after.
Wow. That's so funny, because like that switch in terms of like what you focus on, because immediately for like those fandom categories, I knew that I always wanted to be a player to like, I'm not going to get those core ones. I'm going to like suck at like a lot of things, like in those like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings bad. But it's like, I want to get the fringes immediately. Right. I want to be good at everything else around it. And that's what, that helped me a whole lot.
Because I remember back in, so it must've been 20. Because when did you go to the Schmodown? 21?
I had to be, because it had to be after. No, because I played during like, there was like online virtual. So it was like during COVID era, so it must be in 21. Yeah. You must be. Yeah.
So
anyway, I'm bad with years.
Before then, obviously, when you were on a team with Brian, I vividly remember you guys spinning like DreamWorks, Bond, and you being the one to carry the team through those categories, where you were like studying those fringe categories and working on those fringe categories. And so that's why when like I see you playing and you have a wheel and it's like DreamWorks is on there and you're like, ooh, let's go horror. I'm like, why? what are you doing, Jacoby?
That's just so, because DreamWorks it gets so deep in terms of like what it has, and like for the amount of time that like where I've studied to, like there was that in that era of time, it's like all the DreamWorks movies are really fresh. Like, am I going back and rewatching Madagascar 2 Escape to Africa? Like, no. Like I'm rereading the 5 questions I wrote over it, and like I'm like, I remember the names for all those things. But
you used that category, because I remember I watched all your matches. You used that in your matches. And I was like, fun fact, by the way, America's Asses is the second highest ranked team of all time. Or not of all time, but retired team that never won the belts.
That's so good. That run that Brian and I did, I love that run that we did. I really loved, because again, Brian and I had so many gaps, but things ran away. There was the match is one of my favorite matches. It was funny. You put the post out there about like, hey, favorite like fandom moments, and it's like for a moment I was just like, I want to put all the stuff I was in, but then I was also like, I don't want to be I don't like be that guy, that sort of thing. But I was literally thinking of that match with Brian against I just forget Rizzy and Eli. The one where it's like, if they just bet Schizo, if they just bet 1 point in any of like the 5 questions, they would have won, and they bet like none throughout, and we just slowly came back up. It was insane, and that was like one of the moments of just one of those matches, which is like, wow, it's like that stick with you after you're doing this for holy crap, like more than over 5 years, 6 years, 7 years now.
Crazy.
I don't even know.
But yeah, you were the MVP of this year's last one standing.
Totally derailed that. Yes.
Yeah, that is this show, my friend.
That is the point. We literally started the opening segment by talking about Nick's wands and stuff, and we ended by like.
Well, we started talking about bands we like, and then
that is what we started talking. You're right. I forgot about that.
And then it ended at
MCU
in the MCU. Yeah. But any early thoughts about how you're going to use that?
Ooh, I mean, again, the joy that I get.
And try not to spoil anything that's happened that we've shot so far.
First, I can talk in the realm of this one, but I can just talk about this overall in terms of like, going forward of what I want out of playing trivia, do I want laurels for myself, or do I want laurels as like a group with like friend? I hope I'm using the word laurels correctly. I might not be, but like, and so like the joy I get of winning individual matches or losing individual matches or anything is not as much as I get from either the joy or the hurt of losing with a team match. So I would say, like, it's just doing it with a friend, especially Rue, who I love that guy, and he's so great. So it's like anything that I most likely want to push would be us in any capacity where we'd want to go, because I enjoy teams. I think more than I take it more seriously than I do singles.
I get that.
And if it's a single, like if I'm trying to get, at any stage of whatever, if I'm up against to try to go to a singles champion, that's going to be a tougher fight, but we'll see.
Fair, but it'd be fun to say.
It would be fun. I'd like to get it. I like speed rounds, or not speed rounds, like filmography rounds. Those sort of things. I like those.
So if you and Rue win the belts back, then we'll see you in singles. And if you win that one on your own as well.
Yeah, that's just my goal, I guess. Maybe I never have to use this, and I can just win.
I dread that because we almost ran into that very problem last year.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, Robert's winning everything late in the game. What do we do?
We had a lot of backup plans.
But very cool, Jacoby. Congratulations. You were also on another show of ours very recently that has been
sweeping the nation.
Ooh.
Jacoby, I probably said this at the live reunion, which has happened already, but hasn't happened yet. I think I think Robert played the best game, because I think the winner of the game played the best game.
Right.
I think you were the player that people will look at and say played the best game. And I think arguably because you probably had the most knowledge of Survivor going into it. Like fun fact, and this will be revealed at the live thing, Paul didn't know how the game ended.
Didn't
know how you won the game. So, like Paul, like when Giancarlo got voted out, Paul was texting Giancarlo being like, "Yeah, screw you," like sending him gifts and stuff. Which is why in the finale, Giancarlo's like, "Yeah, screw Paul. I'm voting for anybody but Paul."
That's funny.
And Robert knew somewhat about the game, but he also was like keeping very below, almost too below the surface, to where there was an argument that like he didn't make enough big moves. I think watching it back, I was like, oh shit, Robert like lied to Nazario, got Giancarlo to vote for someone else, which got Giancarlo voted out, turned on Cody without like even thinking about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why, hey, watching it back and then doing a live reunion after you can see all the episodes is much more valuable, because you can see all this stuff. Because I agree.
But you are like the trying to think of which seasons you've seen. That this would make sense. You're like the person that like is set up to be the winner that gets voted out right at the very end.
So close. Yes.
Would you agree? Is that how you saw? Like, did you think you were about to win?
I think that I could have had a pretty good shot, and I could explain my actions exactly of why I was trying to control the games, why I made the choices that I did, which involved, getting Tim out at the time that I did, which I am sorry for there. But in order to do that, like, I knew that would get like us, like that would create some chaos when I knew, because like, I remember I was watching the episode afterwards where Cody was like, Jacoby just screwed himself because now he's on the team with 2 to 3. But in my mind, I was like, we're going to merge like this. Like we're merging. So I knew we had to do that. So I knew at that point, if I come in there with the, with them still in it and me on there, I could probably sink below a little bit, survive a few more weeks. And then it sucks that my plan really did hinge on at the very end. It's like, I got to win the last immunity. Like I knew I had
Did you know it was you had said in a prior episode, you were like, I know Nick hates final threes. That doesn't mean in future seasons it won't be a final 3, but yes, for this first one, I was like, nope, it's a final 2 guaranteed. Like, were you confident in that?
I had a feel like I was assuming, because I was like, I've heard you go so hard against the final 3s. I'm like, this is Nick's show. He's going to do what he wants here. And like, why the value of that? So I knew if I could just get there, I had to do that. But I knew what it meant was, again, I had to win the last immunity. So when I didn't, I'm like, that's it. So I hinged it all, put all my eggs in that one basket a whole lot. But it was fun to play to get to that point, because I like being a little crazy.
Quite frankly, I think you made the show as fun as it was this season, because I was very worried, and I'm trying to avoid this for future seasons. But for the first one, I was like, I can't just message random people and be like, hey, come be in this experimental show I'm trying to do. So I had to get a group of people that knew each other. And I got two factions of people, and I tried to split you all up. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I purposely like split you so that you and your like closest ally
We could tell.
were on other teams.
What are you talking about? Me and Tim have always been like this. I don't know what you're talking about.
I was very worried
ever
that
since Satan's Alley, we've been
ever since Satan's Alley.
I was very worried that my buddies from New York were going to be voted out 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I am glad they weren't. It makes the show so much better. When Nazario goes in that second, was it episode 2, right?
It's the premiere, but it's the second.
Oh, but it's the second week, yeah. And then because I think episode 4 or it's episode 3 is the one after I get voted out, where it opens up and they're like, "So who got voted out?" And Cody's like, "Tim," and everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah.
So, like the fact that like they made it as far as a lot of them did, especially Paul, was awesome.
It was great. And but I agree, because that's what makes it exciting. I mean, that's what makes it the hint of unpredictability that like I think the show should have, right? It should be a little bit fun, and it's fun to watch it and fun to play it, like, and that's sort of like, let's see what happens, you know. Like,
and 3 of them made it to the jury.
Yeah.
So if it was between 2 of like the trivia people, as they were called throughout the show, like those 3 guys would probably be like, well, this guy like didn't screw us right away, so let's go for him.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought the person that won or like played a winning game would be the one to like cross those lines, and you and Paul definitely like did that. So it was great, man. I had a blast watching.
I know you guys who were talking about that show, it seemed like you were talking for like a while to like get it off the ground. So that's why I think it's so cool, just like for all your planning to like finally launch something and to like do it, and for it to be successful only with like the minor hiccups of like Coho and Bill having to like drop out. Like, who knows what would have happened if they stuck around, like, right? That could have been.
You guys, by the way, you two said it when they left. Tim said, I would have voted Coho first, and Jacoby said, I would have voted Bill first. Was that honest, or were you just trying to like tell Paul and Giancarlo like, yeah, no, we totally would have voted them out?
That was 100% my take.
I agree because I would want more of them on there to create more chaos for like me personally to like go farther. Like that's why I would want that sort of that element of there. So
yeah, if you would have asked me after the first week or before we ever started, and this is probably naive of me, but I would have said, yeah, get the people I don't know out of there, because I could feel like I could maybe like control the people I know more, which I mean, I think we all did it, but I think looking back on and watching the show, there are times where like I definitely was like poking Cody a little bit with our group of being like, he's losing his mind, fuck him, it's going crazy, screw him, just totally out of like Cody's gonna hear that Tim said this and be pissed, and that's so like I was trying to play those games. So beforehand, if you would have asked me, I would have been like, whoever I can vote out that I don't know, get him out of there. But immediately after week 1, I was like, Paul's got to stay. Like he's got, and I like Giancarlo. Like I think he's a good dude, and like he's, I think his match has aired now, or maybe not. No
matches have aired yet.
No match, except
just the last one standing.
Except for the last one standing. But he's so he has a match coming up. We filmed that, and he's a fun guy. He's a good dude.
That's great. He seemed, I like how into it he was in terms of just like he seemed like the biggest Survivor fan there is, like switching the buffs ever. I don't
think he's ever seen the show either.
Oh, he hasn't either. That's hilarious, because again, I just like how he came in with red, and then when he was blue, he switched.
But like I didn't really get to meet Eddie, and I actually doing the he also has a match coming up too. Getting to meet him in that, I think I would really like Eddie. He seems like a really nice guy. But like Liam, Paul, and Giancarlo were really fun, and immediately I like my eyes were open where I was like, oh, okay. And after the like second week, I was like, get Coho out of here. Like that was my opinion. And it wasn't because of Coho, it was just because of like looking at the people that were on our team. I'm like, I'm not voting Paul out. I'm not voting Jacoby out. Like, Bill was there to stay for me. Like, I thought Bill could have won the whole thing if he had stuck around.
I thought Bill could have too.
So
if you guys never went to tribal,
it was very honest. It was an honest point at the time.
Yeah. Eddie drew the short end of the stick. because
that's a tough position to be in.
And it's crazy. And I will harp on this I did harp on this at the live reunion. He got one question right. Everyone said he got 0. And there were like 3 people that only got 2 questions right. So
right, but it's like at that stage, it's like you're really just trying to find a reason, right? Like it's like you just need one thing to stick onto, because honestly, that's the like. Sorry, Tim. Like Tim, I knew I wanted to get you like just to be out in terms of thing, and I had to use the reason of just like he said he wanted to be out. Let's do it sort of like there.
No, I definitely
sort of thing, right?
you.
Like that's, absolutely. But you're just like grasping, especially those first weeks. Like he looked at me wrong. He's out. Like let's just all load it up, you know.
My last question for you on Virtual Survivor.
Yeah.
Your fatal flaw, your one trip up mistake. Actually, I guess 2 questions. Yeah. The thing Paul said he was voting you out for. Do you believe it, or do you think Paul was just saying like, no, I don't want to go up against Jacoby, so I'm going to figure out some reason to vote him out?
I guess it's hard because with the live has already aired, but like it's weird. So for my fatal flaw, where I was a little shady with.
Like, what do you think was your biggest mistake?
Oh, what do I think was my biggest mistake? Yeah, I guess, man, to be honest, that's a tough question. I really want to. I can't wait to, because I haven't seen back that element yet of like that moment of like my final conversations with Paul. And I'm sure when I do, I'm going to think like, man, I should have approached it like a little bit differently. Like in terms of like, I probably played it a little too safe at times.
It's very much like Paul caught you off guard, because I know, because I've seen it, but it's very much like Paul caught you off guard. It's almost like you went into the conversation thinking like, cool, it's me and Paul. And when Paul said like, you said this thing, you're kind of like, yeah, I said that. My bad.
It's always those moments you're caught in those lies. You're like, crap. And like, I know it's like, I probably at that point I had said so many things. So I'm like, okay, what does he have said about and why? And not being able to process that in time, you know, and come up with some.
I think, and Paul says as much, because he'll be like, yeah, Jacoby was my number 1, but then he said this and this, and then at the end of all of it, Paul goes, and I thought he'd kick my ass at the finals.
I agree with that. I'm just being a little vain here. I don't like when he says like, you said some shady shit, like it's like, we're playing this game of shady shit. We're all lying to each other in some capacity. So that's always my philosophy in terms of that. But I know people play that game that way. Like they want to play the honest game and they want to go through that thing. But I think Survivor's a game of deceit. We're all lying to each other. I would never feel bad about being betrayed by somebody for lying to me, because that's what makes it fun. But that's just me.
And I know that because in Final Tribal, you were big on that. And both Robert and Paul like refused to give into that. Yeah. They were like, nope, I was honorable. And Jacoby's sitting there like, no, you weren't. Tell us
you guys are lying. You're playing a game of just being deceitful to each other. Admit, I know maybe that doesn't win jury votes, but it wins my vote in terms of just like, admit that you're lying to people to win the game, because that's what we're doing.
Paul's problem, and I'll say this, Paul is like the biggest bullshitter I know. It's one of my best friends, but he's so good at bullshitting people. The whole soup salad sandwich thing, he's so full of shit on that. I swear to God. He like read all of that online, and now it's like he's like, soup salad. But anyway, he thought bullshit got him to that point, plus a couple immunity wins. He thought it was going to win the game for him. But in Final Tribal, as you said to Robert, Final Tribal is where you put it all out on the line, and you just like tell the jury this is what happened. No more lies, no more bullshit. Yeah. And Paul just tried to bullshit his way through all of it. He couldn't.
Yeah.
But that's not the only show you've been on recently. I just watched your second episode of Pop Culture Jeopardy. Can we talk about it?
Yeah, it's aired. It's out there. So, and this airs. Yeah. So yeah, we're all good.
Sweet. First episode, fantastic. Tim, I don't think you've gotten around to seeing it.
I have not yet. My apologies.
I am your guest on your podcast, and you have not done the proper research in order to.
Nick is the other host.
That's fair. Yeah. First episode's great. You guys are like losing, or you're winning. They're playing Whitney Seibel.
Oh no, I've seen the first episode.
Oh, you
I just haven't. Oh no, I haven't seen the new one yet. You've seen the new one.
We're gonna spoil it. We're gonna spoil it for you.
Oh yeah, okay, that's fine.
You guys did not win. On the Bubble did not win. Nick Harley, by the way, killed it in this second.
Phenomenal in the second game. I'm watching it back. It's hard because in the moment, it's so much fun watching it back. We shot this in August, and like you're in moment, you're under the lights, it's crazy. Like you don't really know how it goes. All I knew is that I didn't answer a lot of questions in the second game, but that's all I really remember. But I didn't remember like the format of things, and like watching it again, like Nick was on fire, like on that one in terms of and like I knew he would have gotten all those like the very tough music questions that Rocky, who was next to us on like the stage hands, like he knew all those too. It's just again beats the buzzer. But yeah, Nick was great.
I need to know because how does that buzzer system work?
So in original Jeopardy, there's a delay. Like if you buzz in incorrectly, then there's a 0.25.
What do you mean incorrectly? Like before?
Oh, sorry. If you buzz in beforehand, you get locked out for 0.25 seconds.
What's the beforehand? Like finishing?
Oh, so before, the very end of the sentence. There's somebody who like activates the light as soon as they're done with like the very last syllable of the question itself, and then the buzzer goes on, and then you have to click. You have to time it perfectly in order to do it. If you buzz in too early, you're locked out for a little bit of a second. But from my understanding, for Pop Culture Jeopardy, because there was 9 people on the stage, there was no lockout. So it's all about the timing. So as soon as the last syllable is said of the sentence, there's a little light that we see that like turns on, and then but you have to do it like it's the preemptiveness, right? You have to like be pressing it like right before. You can't like think and ready.
So it straight up could have just been like one team was better at clicking the buzzer.
It's tough, yes, because. I mean, really, because
which episode is it? I'm sorry.
Sorry. Episode 29 is the second episode.
Okay.
Yes, it is really a buzzer, especially in Pop Culture Jeopardy, which we have said all the time. Like, there's a ton of questions again that like we like as a team, somebody on the team knew. It's not like we didn't know the answers. Or I mean, I didn't know any of the music ones. That's what like Paul and Nick were for. Like, I don't know, you know, like, but like somebody on the team. There's like a 95%, I would say, like somebody on the team knows the question. So it's not about knowing it. It's about timing of the buzzer and facing personality hires who were great, but like they were prepared in terms of like they were all Jeopardy players beforehand. They were there beforehand. They wore like Zach, the guy, was wearing like gloves like in the green room to like keep his hands sort of fresh. And I was like, oh, that's probably a good idea. But like, you know, it's like because it's all about the buzzer. It really is.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But no, so unfortunately, yes, we did not win the second victory. That first match was crazy because we were against Whitney Seibold, which was a big surprise on that day to be in there.
And the people Whitney was with were like 10 times better than he was.
Yeah, she was great. His wife, I guess, was like she was crazy on the buzzer, which was the super funniest thing happened is the peek behind the curtain. So like there was a practice period like right beforehand where like all 3 teams go out and you get a chance to practice on the buzzer to get the timing. In practice, us 3 killed it. Like we were just dominating the practice rounds. So then and you play like 10 questions and we got like eight of them, you know, like it just were like, hell yeah. Like,
you think that was part of their strategy? Like let them think
could have been because as soon as we walked back on stage, then they started answering a whole lot. And I was just like, oh crap. But then and then they pulled away. And then it sucks because playing Whitney, who is, he's a movie critic, and we're down by 5,000 points. And then the category pops up, which is movie like film reviews of the 2010. So like, that's it. Like that's game over. It's like
literally.
Like, of course he's going to get it. And then
you didn't know that you were playing him until the day of.
We showed up on that day and he was we kind of clocked him for a little bit. And we're like from afar, we're like, is that Whitney? No. I think that's Whitney. And then they ask us, we kind of go up and say hi. He had no idea who we were. He might have recognized Paul way more than he recognized like Nick and me. But even then he was just like, oh.
Paul was there. Hi. Paul was in the Schmodown longer, right?
Yes, he was. He was like for like 2 years or something beforehand.
Sure.
And it was funny because then on the there's the final thing where they announce the 3 teams that are playing that round because you learn like a little bit beforehand. Whitney's team is one of them, and then it's us. And then they're like, is there any conflict? Like, do you guys know each other? I wanted to say, no, like, don't say anything. But Paul wanted to be the honorable one and be like, we should tell him. So he comes up to the guy and says, like, we were in, the Schmodown. And then you have to explain the Schmodown to like,
I saw you try to do that to Colin Jones.
I was like, you have to explain that. I was like, it's like an online YouTube show. And then Whitney had to come up, and it was super funny because then the guy asked, did you guys ever compete against each other? And like Whitney's like, nope. And like Paul's like, well, yeah, we did play like against each other. So, but then it was fine because I'm sure they researched it and saw that, like, hey, it doesn't matter, like that sort of thing. But like it was completely random, and it was there like crap. So
what is if you're able, are you able to talk about behind the scenes stuff? on it?
Sure, why not? What are they gonna do?
So, like, I'm assuming.
But disclaimer: if you guys want me back for the second, if Pop Culture Jeopardy producers are watching this and want me back for the next season, just skip this next part, probably whatever. Okay.
I'm not gonna ask like about the show specifically, but just like the day as a whole. Like, are you there for like 15 hours? Like, is it like
the audience has it much worse. Like my wife, who was in attendance along with those sort of things, like they don't know which game it is that you are playing at. We arrived, their call time was even earlier than ours. Our call time was like 10 a.m. and there's a bus that takes us from the hotel there. My wife's call time and like the people who like Nick's girlfriend and like Chandru from the Schmodown was like there because he was like roommates with Paul. So like they had to be there super early. Like the whole day, and they don't get like a lunch. They like they have to like they get a break where they can go out and there's like a vending machine in the sort of like the room, but they also don't, because we can't have our phones, so it's like we can't tell them like, hey, our game's coming up. So it's like so we were in a green room with everybody, which is sort of fun because then you can kind of watch it with other people.
Did you all take the same bus?
Yeah, we stayed. They fly us into the hotel, and then they put it like in the morning. They put us on a bus to like go to the Sony lot.
I'm just picturing that bus of like the survivor boats coming to the island of everyone just like looking at each other like
it's a bunch of Pop Culture Jeopardy theater kids, which is makes a very interesting bus ride.
This was you said on the Sony lot in LA.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're in Vegas, right? Right now.
Yes.
So that's how many days were you there for this then?
We were the ticket was for like Thursday night, I believe. Yeah, Thursday like today, and then they give you the return ticket to Tuesday because they're like, and then that's like because if you win, you got to play the next day, but if you lose, then you don't. So, but I think we had a break. We had Thursday. We got in Thursday. I think we played Friday. We had a break on Saturday and then played again on Sunday. But like most of the people, if you're there, like your ticket is from like the Thursday to Tuesday, and you kind of just have to like stick around. Like I guess some people who lost in the first round like tried to get their tickets changed. I don't know if they did or not. But like they also have to like they don't know how long you're going to be there, so they just bulk everybody off for that time.
When you were on the in between times on the breaks, were you with Nick and Paul talking about the game, or were you vacationing with your wife? We had a good time on the vacation. We took like on the middle day, like in the downtime, like then we went and we did LA, and my wife actually wasn't there for the second game, to be honest. She only could be there for the first game. So the second day was just kind of like a tour. Like Paul took us, Paul lives in LA. So he took us around to like some of his favorite spots. Like, we hit like the touristy spots for Harley, who had never really been there. I lived in LA, so like I've known the spots, but like we went to like Griffith Park and walked around the Chinese theater. We did that walk and had lunch at a cool cafe and got brunch somewhere. Like, so it was a nice chill day before we got back into it. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. How did this come about, Jacoby?
Well, so they sent out that huge notice, like, in terms of like Pop Culture Jeopardy is going to be a thing. And I think at that point when it came out, for full disclosure, again, it's just like, I kind of missed playing trivia with Harley because after you play the Schmodown, he was my partner and I became really good friends with the guy. Then after it sort of ends, it starts to fade a little bit, in that sort of aspect. But like that moments of when you play was really great. So I knew it's like, I kind of want to try it again with him because I also knew he was like a music sort of fiend. Like he fills that gap of like, that all sort of thing. Yeah. So I was like, great. So I was like, okay, that's cool there. And then again, I talked to Paul like all the time too. And I knew he's like one of just the smartest guys. I just knew he'd be good at it. So I asked him too. And to try to like unite the two separate groups sort of together. And then it worked out.
You said the notice went out. Like what are you subscribed to? Where you
sorry. They announced it that Pop Culture Jeopardy was going to be a thing. Like I saw that whenever they announced that for the show.
Like in Variety or on
they announced
there was a press release about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh, okay. So they announced that sort of thing there. So I was like, great. And then I think I just subscribed to, at that point, I looked online to see what it was. And I was like, great. It's like, pick your teams of 3 now and sign up for when you want to do it. So I was like, okay, like, and I already asked him. I asked Paul, and I think Paul was in high demand in terms of like part of our trivia community. He was like being asked, like, so I think I got to him first, which is which is
also like other people in our community were like trying out for this as well, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, I would say I know some people who did. I guess I won't name the names, but there were people who did as well in terms of that. But yeah,
pay more attention.
Was there an audition?
I should have asked you guys. You know,
no, I would have only been good for like movie stuff.
I would not have been.
The stuff they asked, I was like, oh god, like they're asking about like hot girl summer and like
that's a whole lot.
I'm just like, yeah, no, I would.
You want me there to wave a flag and eat a meal with you? I'm your guy. But to answer questions, I'm not there.
There's a lot about TikTok. I was like, I would.
Yeah, it's great. It was a lot of.
So there was an audition process then?
Yep, there was a test that you take that was like 50 questions that you all take individually, but it's timed. So it's like hey, 15 seconds per each question. So you can't cheat. You don't have really time to cheat or anything like that because you have to answer quickly 50 questions. And then you all three do them individually, and then it sends in. Then we heard nothing. Then we got back a Zoom audition.
When was that?
Had to be like in May, I think, of last year.
So that was.
It was like around. I think so. It was like May, but then we shot in August. So it's like May was I think around that time of like the first audition of like the test, and then they shot in August. I think is the time period of the chunk of time.
That's still crazy to me because when I think of like production and stuff, like my brain immediately goes to like you hear about a movie that's announced and you don't see it for 5 years or whatever because I live in the world of like big budget movies at the movie theater that I'm like working at and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, to like hear about something, audition for it, shoot it, and it's released by the end of the year. That's crazy.
Oh, especially the time because again, like so we did the test, which was great, and then then we hear nothing for like a while. It's not like immediate, so it's like okay, I guess like it's done, and then like a very long time later, then we hear back so like, hey, we want you to do a Zoom audition, which is everything, which is basically you going up against another team, maybe two teams. We were up against one other team, and at that point, it's really not about the knowledge; it's about your teamwork, and it's about making sure you can understand the charisma and making sure you understand the rules of the game, which sometimes the teams that you're up against like do not like in terms of that. They have to prompt you.
They were playing Bamboozled.
Yes, I think so.
Understand that reference? No,
I should. My wife loves Friends, but I don't remember the Bamboozle episode.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
let's play Bamboozle.
It's a bunch of different rules, and they're like, "We're just gonna make it a quiz show." That's very cool.
Now the real. Oh, sorry, Nick. I had a very important question.
Please go.
Yeah, shut up, Nick. Okay.
Did you meet Scarlett Johansson?
I did not.
Is Colin Jost nice?
He was. He seemed like he was into it. Like, and he was like he didn't seem like he was checked out. Yeah, like he's solid. There was some growing pains in terms of whatever you're a first time host for anything. I imagine there were some things that like we weren't prompted on that first Daily Double and that first question, and that in the first one where like we knew the answer, but we were kind of waiting to be like, and your answer is, and then we were going to answer. But that's why it's like we just stand there in fucking silence because like we're just like kind of waiting. But like he was great. He seemed very involved. He seemed very like wanting to make the game good.
I don't know much about Colin Jost because I don't watch SNL, but I've seen he was on an episode of Impractical Jokers. His brother is actually the direct. I'm a big Impractical Jokers fan. His brother is the current director of Impractical Jokers. Casey
Randy
Jokers.
From that '70s show. Wait, a different brother, not Kate.
Different brother, yes. I think. Casey
Jost family.
Colin Jost, who again I don't know very well, seems like the guy that bullied the nerds in high school. So if that's accurate, which it might not be,
I haven't gotten that vibe. That's interesting.
I have to imagine he's just standing there trying not to be like, you freaking nerds.
I don't know if he's like the nerd guy. I would imagine I only have minor interactions with him and I can only base this off of like this SNL persona that he sort of crafted. But he sort of seems like this, like, man, isn't this crazy? Like type of like
he's
this.
He's married to Scarlett Johansson and he's like,
yeah, he had to make he had to make the move at some point. I guess she was a guest on the show and she was like, hey, you're kind of cool. Like whatever. But like, I don't know.
That's the opposite of what a nerd does.
Yeah,
stereotypically, of course, but but I thought he did good, and definitely in later episodes, he's definitely like cracking jokes and it's smooth and stuff. But
for sure.
Are you tuning in for every episode now, Jacoby? Like, are you enjoying the show, or
maybe for my future reference, I need to say yes to this, but if I'm being honest, I've watched 2 episodes, episode 7 and episode 29.
We started watching a bunch. We started watching a bunch. It's kind of fun to have on like the background and just answer questions and stuff.
Sure,
but there's an element of it that I'm watching. I would imagine like if I watch it, then it's an element of like, man, I wish we would have had that round, or like I wish we would have played these players instead, like sort of thing. I think I would get too involved in that mindset. So it's tough for me, you know.
Did they say anything to you when it was over, like where you would need to like re-audition to come back, or was there any?
I don't think there was a lot of like, we don't know what this show is, when it's going to air, and because at that point it didn't really have an air date, and they were like, maybe it's going to show in end of 2024, maybe 2025, we don't know, type of thing.
Fair.
So
are you planning on applying for more reality type shows of this
reality type, that's maybe
reality / game shows, because now you have it. You could be like, yeah, check me out, I was on this show.
I was on
Virtual
Virtual Survivor. I got to rank those. Like, it's a Virtual Survivor.
Quite frankly, that show shows a lot more of your personality than
standing there where I have to smile like an idiot for like most of the time. Yeah. If I have to rank it based on what my mom loves more than anything, it would be Virtual Survivor number 1. Then probably Pop Culture Jeopardy, then this, you know, trivia, you know, like online trivia, and then Schmodown, I would think is the ranking of what my mom likes.
I'll just say this here because you just did it and we haven't actually cleared it up. We know Multiplex still exists. We're rooting for their success. And we're not afraid to acknowledge it.
Oh, yeah. No, that's true.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought up your mom. I'd like to talk about her.
Oh, great.
Honestly, I thought she was going to be on the show today, and then it wasn't until.
Oh yeah, that wasn't me. I know.
It wasn't until right when we hit.
I'm sorry.
It was right when we hit record that Nick broke it to me that she wasn't going to make it. Was she offended by my foul language?
No, she loves you guys, and she loves, well, especially. That's awesome. Yeah, she loves the show, and she loves when you guys host and go through some things. I'm like, she's like, and like hosting Virtual Survivor. I'm like, Nick, she's like, I love Nick for how he's especially doing Virtual Survivor in terms of thing. I'm like, yeah, you met him, and she's like, no, I have not. I'm like, he was here. You like,
I met her very briefly. Yeah, we like stopped by your house, and your mom was like on her way somewhere else.
Yeah, and I was just gave her a hug, and I'm like, yep, you have met him. She's like, nope, never met this man before ever in my life. Like, he was here. I know you met him very briefly, but
Nick
she loves the trivia stuff.
If you've watched previous episodes of Round 4, you know that Nick is very popular with family members.
I saw like Nazario. Yeah, it's like
Nazario's wife is a big Nick fan. Maggie is a big Nick fan. It's hilarious. But how do you explain this stuff to family members? Because I think everyone does it a little bit differently. Like, my parents know that I have very close, like I don't think my parents have met Nick, but my parents have met Cody, and that might be it. I think Cody's the only one my parents have met, but in person. But I talk about them a lot. Like my friend Nick, my friend Cody, my friend whoever. Like,
that's it. It's only those two.
It's only the two. But I'll say yeah, I have a friend that lives in Pittsburgh. I have a friend that lives in, and then so they kind of just accept that as fact. Yeah. Like, yeah, I have a friend who lives in Long Island, and they're like, okay. And like they just accept that. They're not like, how does Tim have a friend that lives in Long Island? Like what? How does he's lived in Wisconsin for his whole life? What are you talking about? So but whenever I have to go a little further, it's like I have a family, and when in any spare time I have, I just get on a computer and I talk to them and I ask them about the Boss Baby. And like, how do you handle that conversation? Because I think it's different for everybody.
It is true, and it's much easier, I would say, obviously, for a player than I would say for you two who like run this shit. You know, like for all that sorts of like that. I would imagine you guys have a much harder job explaining like how much time you have devoted to this into your life. And,
it is very probably like, oh, you play. Not exactly.
Like, no, I read it, and like like probably some family members like, oh, so you get paid for this, like type thing, like you're like what? Paid in friendship and everything, but like. I, for when I say I compete in trivia, especially for like one of your hobbies, I say like I compete in online movie trivia, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, that's interesting, and that's great. It's like, yeah, I love the community that it has, and it makes me close friends with people all around the world, essentially. And they're like, that's really cool, and that's why I always feel like I'm very fortunate too, because that's the best thing about, I would say, this community is like meeting people who like I'd never cross paths with you guys in a million years. Like, it's like never ever. There's a world out there where I don't do that, but then it's the bonds that it makes is great. So, but that's how I explain it in terms of I play online movie trivia.
That's what I usually throw out, the online movie trivia, and I used to throw out the two. When I started, I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. Like when it was pitched to me, they were like, "Do you want to get on and play movie trivia?" Because I was a fan of the Schmodown, and so I've since day one, like I was just Schmo's No fan for a long time, and so when it started becoming a thing, and then the fan leagues all started and everything, and multiplex became a thing, and I didn't know like what the leagues were, what the different things were, but I remember my brother-in-law was just like, yeah, come and play this with me. I think you'd be good at it.
I forgot you're related to Robert.
I was like, that sounds stupid. And he was like, no, you'll have fun. I was like, oh. And then we come and we play our first match and we won. And I was like, oh, that was gratifying. Great. Wonderful. And I still remember him messaging me and being like, hey, so I'm going to have a manager come to our next match. His name is Cody. And I was like, that sounds fucking stupid. Like, what do we need a manager? What is he going to do? That's fucking dumb. And then Cody came, and Cody and I obviously became very close friends. Like immediately. So it was like one of those things where when I would tell people about it and they would be like, I either got the, oh, that's really interesting, but it kind of morphed into what you said, Jacoby, of like, yeah, I've met a lot of really great people from all around the world. There are a lot of people I really, really like. There are a lot of people that are not the best, but you know what? I would have never met like so many great people and so many interesting people like that I just never would have crossed paths with any other way. I think you hit it on the head.
I feel like I could go to Spain and like text David and be like, hey, I'm in Spain. Like, let's do something fun.
That actually, that brings up a good point of, sorry, go ahead, Jacoby.
I was just saying, like, that's the weird, I guess that is the harder part to, am I echoing too, by the way? I don't think
a little bit. I hear a bit of
I don't hear it. Go ahead.
That's the hardest part to, I think, explain to an outside person is the level of bonds. Because sure, you can know each other like outside of things, but like we all get that. Like, hey, again, like you can go to Spain, you could text somebody and be like, hey, let's go grab a beer. Like that's great. But if you explain to an outside person, it's like, yeah, it's because we play movie trivia together. They're like, oh, okay, that's a little strange. It's like the outside is hard to understand.
Yes.
Once you share a passion for something like we all do, it's like how much that really bonds you, which is cool.
I think though that like I agree with you. I think that at the same time though, there are you kind of get a good sense of that from the people that you talk of like who you can and cannot do that with. And that differs for everybody.
Sure.
So for example, like I know that if I'm in Vegas, I could be like, like, hey, are you around this weekend, Jacoby? Like, let's get a beer. Like, and that I would not
be, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's fair. I would not be afraid of spending some time in person with Jacoby, versus like an Evan DeGraff.
Tim's
might be a little mildly terrified.
Sure.
So
listen, you never know if you. So for two instances come to mind. If you ever told me Kirk would post a picture of him and Adelaide Spence just chilling in Kirk's living room, I would have told you you're crazy.
Yeah.
But that's cool. And if you had told me when Abel first started playing, I was not a big Abel fan, but Abel texted me and was like, I'm going to be in New York. Let's grab a beer. And I was like, okay, I guess. Like, what else am I gonna do? And it was a fucking blast, and now we're good friends. So, like, who knows?
No, yeah, no, that's true. You never know, and it is good community, good people.
It is community. You can come together after, like, again, like to be honest, Tim, I don't remember when we became like good again after, or like if we, I don't know, after Satan's Alley, you know, like after there was that sort of down period, and then I'm sure, and then it just fine.
Well, I mean, I truthfully, I think that I never got along with Tony really well. And so it was never I think the other thing is, and I think Cody would tell you this as well, is we all four of us, I think, were extremely competitive people.
Sure.
Who should not have filmed that match in the same room with Robert in the room, with Coho in the room, with Maggie in the room, with us. Never should have done that. And then on top of that, super competitive. That was also a time where, and Nick and I have talked about this a lot, not necessarily on the podcast, but in general, of like, there was a time of trivia, multiplex, Full Metal, whatever, where everyone was doing the bit.
Yeah.
I was still doing the bit.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, well, Tony says that I'm a butthole. That means that I have to eviscerate him verbally every time I see him. And there was a point where, and I don't know when it was particularly, but there was a point where I realized, and I've said this before on other shows, of like, why are we just being dicks to people in the name of trivia? Like, that's stupid.
Because we watched a show that was great. I loved the Schmodown, at least like in the first half. And what was so brilliant about it was it's not just trivia, it's wrestling trivia. And we all wanted to be that. And the fact of the matter is, myself included, a lot of us just don't have the acting chops to pull that off. So it came off.
A lot of people in the Schmodown didn't either.
Yeah.
So it came off as everyone's just a dick.
And so to be fair, like I don't think I've spoken or even messaged a word with Tony Heald in.
I met Tony in person.
In 5 years.
You did. That is, we met him together. That's crazy.
I bet if I were to message him now, we'd probably be adults and it would be fine. It would be a deal. But at the time, that is, I can look back on that and be like, oh yeah, no, I was a dick for no reason.
Well, yeah, he liked to push buttons too, but that's just what I meant. But it's just like, in terms of like these bonds that you start can start in one way. So like comparing the two, it's like, again, like I didn't know you that well, and that was like our first impression, and that might have kicked off something bad. And then I remember like Nick, I remember why, like when you joined the league, again, you have the same effect on me as you do on family members. I just think he's like the coolest guy. I remember I was specifically driving on like a road trip somewhere, and you had texted me because you needed a last minute partner for something. Just like I don't remember what it was for, but it was like, you really need a last minute partner. And I remember being so sad that I was unavailable to do that. I'm like, this is my chance to get to know Nick better. And it's like, so it's like that sort, but it's, and now here we are, right? And but now it's like the bonds that you make like 6 years later can all come from start in different ways and end in great ways. Which
that's totally true. There are like there are lots of people where like Joe Fairley is a great example. I love Joe. Joe's a great dude.
I'd say Robert Kastner is probably the best example about what you're about to say.
Kastner's great too, a good example too. But like of people, I was specifically saying like, we discovered that Ruben Colin was not a great guy, and that painted my perception of Joe Fairley pretty harshly.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And so I was always like, Joe's mean, like, man. And then I was like, no, he's not. He's a nice guy who really just cares about this game a lot. Like, is a super nice guy. Robert is the same way. Where Robert and I think, and we're gonna have Robert on the show next week.
We had him last week.
We had him last week, so maybe I talked to him about this. I don't know. But I've said this to him before. I know for a fact I've said this to him before of like, when I first met Robert, he did the Schmodown trivia, like have to be like ooh thing. And then once I got to know him, I was like, no, you're just a good dude. Like, you're just like, why are we like all like monkeys in a cage, like trying to like punch each other type of thing? So
yeah,
that's all to be said. Yeah, I don't know when the moment was. I think honestly, Jacoby, maybe like 4 months after Satan's Alley, you beat Boatman by saying torch and sword, and it was like the greatest moment of my entire life.
oh yeah.
And I definitely did not dislike Boatman at that point. And I still don't dislike Boatman now. I just we had some issues like running a thing together, but at the time, like we were very, very close. And I still remember that moment. That's like my favorite Jacoby moment.
I think Boatman likes that moment, quite frankly.
I like it too. I hate to be such a narcissist, but like, yeah, I watch that from time to time. You know, like I just I love it. It's so great. And the thing is like, yeah, the guess, but it just works so well in the favor of just like, again, because it's like Boatman makes the mistake with the Star Wars question.
Star Wars
like, really screwed. Like that's it. That's like
And what's great is I remember weird things, but they did like when you and the other guys were going to the Schmodown, they had you on an interview, and you named that match as like a match people should watch if they want to get to know like me. As you might not even remember that, but I remember you saying that, and I was like, yeah, hell yeah, that's the one. Because like you had like one high stakes matches in other ones, and you were like, this was a pretty low stakes thing in a league that I really don't even play in very much, but it's like a great match.
It's a great fun match, and I always that's always you guys know that, at least for me for now. It's like I'm all about fun, right? Like I do this for the fun of it. Like like if I lose a match but it's a really fun match, it's like I walk away from this like that was pretty awesome, you know, like because that's what it's about. That's the joy that we get from this. So
well, that's like
I love that match.
I agree with that sentiment. Like Nick and I, like when we decided we were going to come back with the teams that we came back with, it was purely from a point of like, him and Anna wanted to have fun. Anna wanted to be a part of what we were doing. Tyler and I had always wanted to team up in something, but I was always a teammate with Cody and Melee, and and Knights of Ren was what it was. And when I stepped away from fandom, we were serious about stepping away for at least a long while. And so when we kind of were floating the idea, it was like, no, Tyler's like it was Tyler, and if he said no, I was gonna ask Kirk. Those were like my two, and if
that would have been fascinating.
And if both of them said no, I wasn't gonna do it. But Tyler was like, yeah, no, we're doing it.
Because it's fun.
And that's the thing, and that's what's stupid about it is then he wins the fucking thing. He won the friend, that asshole. Oh.
And he didn't even win. He won against Nazario. He won with Nazario and Mike. It's not even like you guys went up against Rule of Two or Young Justice.
He made me look like such a douche in a good way. I love that man. He's so amazing. That's the other thing is like on the flip side of like we meet a lot of people here. I don't know about you guys, but if we can get one person in, it's really fun. Like Tyler and I were really close in person. And then getting him in and him being kind of like putting a mark on fandom history a little bit.
Dude, Tyler's short run is one of my favorite things in fandom.
It's really cool. And I think not everybody has that, but I think just like anytime you can get anybody even remotely interested, like where this whole conversation originated, like Jacoby's mom being as interested as she is in what we're doing is cool to know that like, it's not just going into the void and it's just the same 10 people watching it over and over again.
I was going to ask you guys that in terms of like how you feel, because I wonder that as like a player in terms of thing, and as showrunners itself, like how you balance doing this because you love to do it for your guys' selves versus like what you want to build from it. Because as we go farther on, well, I guess it's different now that you've relaunched and rebranded, but I guess before that, like the farther you go on, I imagine the people who are in it, like like me, who's been here for like 6-7 years now, are like locked in, and like that's who you're playing. And I'm sure you get like different people every like now and then to come in some singles, but no one can. It seems like it's hard to bring people in who will be the next like big 100%. Time people. But I know, but in this one, because you said like this season starts, you brought in your friends, and it's like it's some new blood sort of into it. So I wonder how you guys balance that.
I think from my perspective, it is hard, but it's not, in the sense that there are crazy people like Nick. And then there are crazy people like Brittany, who we just had on the show, and we talked about her career.
Great interview, by the way. I love that interview.
Thank you. And so there may not always be a Nick or a Brittany, but I feel pretty confident in, as long as we have the Jacobys, the Kastners, the Ruse, the people who work hard at this and are passionate about it, the show will be fun and entertaining and good for me to do. I actually prefer, and Nick and I have talked about this from time to time, was it fun to see my best friend win the title over and over again, even if it was against myself? Yes. I enjoyed it when Nick won. Would it have been better for the show if Mark had won? Or if I had won? Or if Scully had beat both of us? Yes.
That's why I wasn't mad at all when Dummies
Which
won.
is why when Abel beat Brittany, did I want to see Brittany lose? Nope. Was I ecstatic that Abel won? Yes. And I was equally as ecstatic when Tyler beat Abel, because I did not think that was going to happen. So I almost prefer the times when things are a little more up in the air. It's why I'm like really excited about this season. We obviously, nothing's aired yet. We don't know if we talked about it in, I think, the first episode of round 4 of Is It the Age of Birch? We don't know yet. But I think that as long as there are people who actually like care about doing the show, it's going to be fun. And that doesn't even mean studying hardcore, going crazy. It just means care about it enough to show up, to be a part of it, to have fun. Is it better if you have 3, 4 to 8 people who really, really care and do those things? Sure, those things are exciting, but I don't think it's the end all be all. And I think, Nick, like you said, like Nick getting his friends in, like
we'll see, because there's a lot of people that come and play, and they play one match, and then we never hear from them again because
Regev Ben face.
Truthfully, well, but also if you're newer and you start to get lax with like communication with us, or you like just ghost us on a match like that we scheduled, we're not likely to contact you again. If you played a match and we didn't really know you beforehand and you didn't seem all that into it, we probably won't schedule you again. But sometimes those people reach out and go, hey, like, am I getting another match? And we go, oh, cool. Like, they're interested. Like, schedule them again. But as far as this new channel we're launching, that we've launched, that is mid-launch, it's still launching.
Propulsion,
Tim and I think we want to grow this as good as we can, but we still want to stay true. I think the best way to put it is, on Multiplex, we were kind of making a show for the people in the show, in the sense that the audience of the show was also the people that played in it, like, primarily. Sure. I think what we'd like to try and do is see if we can create something where the audience spreads a little bit. We don't need like 10,000 subscribers. We don't need 100 million views on every video or anything like that. But if we can get it to where, like, my friends that are playing share it with our other friends who probably will never play, and they watch it and like it, that's a win for us.
Yeah. I think, like Nick said, we're still in the process of launching, or in propulsion, as you said, Jacoby. But there are things and ideas.
You can use that as your logo if you want to, like in propulsion if you want. I give you permission.
We've we have 4 shows. So this show, Debate, Fandom, and Survivor. Mm-hmm. And Survivor and Fandom, or I'm sorry, Survivor and Fanzone Debate kind of share airtime a little bit almost, are going to be. I think that's been announced. If it hasn't,
once Virtual Survivor ends, Fanzone will begin in its spot.
Oh, look at this scoop that I got in this.
And then Fanzone will take a break while season.
Actually, next week, the first Fanzone event will be this upcoming Sunday.
I definitely said it in that. So, but anyway, we have these 4 shows, but there are many other ideas we have. But the reason we are starting with the 4 shows is, to see kind of what we can do. And Nick and I think, are in agreement that we're in a spot where, yes, what Nick said, if we share it with one person and we can go from 80 views a video to
100,
110, I'm pleased and wouldn't need any more. And if it can go even beyond that, I'm even more pleased. So I think we're in a camp of like, Nick and I have always said to each other, if you want to do this, we're going to do this. If one of us is kind of like, fuck, I cannot, my brain is going to explode if we keep doing this, then we would either shut it down or we would find someone to take it over.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy to me. Like, oh, sorry.
No, that's just kind of the plan. And as of right now, I think Nick and I are pretty excited about the future. And right now we're at the time of recording, we're at 59 subscribers. Which
starting from 0, that's not bad.
Yeah, we're pretty happy about that. We're pretty happy about the interaction in the Facebook group. People are watching, like 50. That's the thing, is 59 subscribers, but each episode of Survivor,
we're getting more views than we have subscribers.
Exactly. So I think we're in a pretty happy spot, and it has never been about the views. It really hasn't. Sure. But I think Nick hit it on the head of like, if we can share it with people, spread it, we will, and we will adapt when more people come.
And it's more so fun for us just to see, like, can we consistently put out matches that are edited and look nice, and the questions are like not stupid and like they're exciting. It's like, can we do this? Not necessarily like we're doing this so that we can get X result.
That's crazy.
That's so true. Cool. That's true. Like that's the whole point with this show too, is like, for the longest time, we both said to each other, like, we want to do a podcast style show. I really wanted a show where like we could talk about anything. And I mean anything. And obviously, like, there are touchy subjects where we would maybe have to like tap around, which is why this is not live. But
yeah, cut out all that Jeopardy stuff if you could, just really quick. Sorry, I changed my mind.
But we talk like I wanted to do a show where we could go from talking about a Jeopardy, the MCU, to 5 minutes later we could be having a really deep conversation about politics, to 10 minutes later we're talking about reviewing Captain America Brave New World, to a few minutes later. Like, that was kind of the thought process. And I think we're hitting it on the head. And Nick is made a good point of like, it's more to see, can we do it? And if, a year from now we were like, whoa, doing that every week was a lot. Like, let's not do that anymore. Then we won't, because we're the bosses. We can do it.
Yeah, that's right. Because the two things about that is like, one, it's like, I think you guys just will succeed, and I think this community succeeds just because of the people. Like, as we sort of mentioned, because I actually was thinking about that for a long time, about like why I still do this, right? Like I could have stopped, I could have done that, but to really, one of the big reasons is like, if I stopped doing this trivia, I would miss you guys, especially like you guys. Like, I would miss fandom. I'm not an A fandom player, like, in terms of that, but I play it because I enjoy the people that I'm around. I enjoy talking with you guys, and so that's why I really like being here. So I do it for the people that I'm around. But then too, it's like and then what I wanted to build off after that is like, I'm always so curious, because like, to be honest, I thought when you announced that when Ellie was like being born and all that stuff, I'm like, that's it. Done. He's gone. I was like, okay, he's still here. That's fine. Okay. Oh, Nick's got a girlfriend at that stage, and I remember talking to you, and then you had told me that's back when we were doing like CBR stuff. And I think so around that time, and you had told me
that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, that's a whole nother conversation. That was a good old
days.
We'll do that one. Yeah, but like when you were like, it's it. Like, it's like, we know, like, at that point, it's so early on. It was like, great. I was like, okay, he has a fiance, he's gonna get married. Done. Like, he's all this stuff, and now you guys are doing more than you guys have ever done before.
Yeah. So turns out the woman I was destined to marry is always the one that would have seen this, and instead of being like, oh, that's weird, okay, have fun, go do your thing, was actually the one that was like, no, get me in there, even though I've never seen a fucking movie before.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like, we I never had a doubt that I would stop doing this altogether when Ellie was born. But I remember having the conversation with Nick where I was like, I will edit, and I will edit every match. That's my commitment for the 2023 season, because Ellie was born in May of 23. And so we've gone a full year and a half. She's almost 2. It's crazy. But I remember saying, like, I will not be hosting as much as I did. Like, it's a matter of fact, I will not be hosting. I would say I've dropped maybe 10, 15%. I used to be at every single match. Now I miss probably, I would say 20% of the matches I miss.
Yeah, one
maybe,
or two.
And Nick misses maybe 5%. Like, I think I solo host. If we put out 100 matches a year, I probably solo host 5 or 6 times, and Nick does 10 to 20 times. And so it's just knowing those lines of like what we can and can't handle. And that's what we've always said. Like, I've told Maggie is like, we're very open in our, and I think Nick and Anna are in this way as well, where it was like, Maggie will say to me in the morning, do you have matches tonight?
Yep.
I get do you have matches tonight? And I'll say, yeah, I got matches at 7 and 8. And then we're going to talk to Jacoby afterwards for the podcast. Okay, that works. I really want to finish my book. But if I had said that and she had said, oh, so you're talking to Jacoby at like 9? And I'd say, yeah. And she'd go, Could you not do the matches at 7 and 8 then? Because I want to spend some time with you. I would message Nick and go, can't do it.
That's the balance, right?
And it would be the same thing opposite. Like, we kind of have that thing.
Yeah.
So we
work together well and don't want to kill each other.
That's true.
That's good. You guys, or like you and your partners? Like, what is the
both,
right?
Well, she wants to kill me sometimes, but me and Tim is who I was referencing.
Is she still back there dancing?
No, I think she's reading, quite frankly.
Oh, actually,
is she dancing while reading?
We've been talking for a long time, but I do have to ask this question now.
Yeah,
Jacoby, what's your setup? Because I see you look to the
I've seen it in person.
You look to the side. Is your wife over there?
Nick has been in my apartment. He kind of knows that
this upcoming episode from this recording, episode of Virtual Survivor shows Jacoby's setup.
Oh,
but it's already out.
Oh, yeah.
If you watch the 6th episode of Virtual Survivor, you'll see it set up. But go ahead.
Yeah, so my setup is I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. So essentially, it's like, yes, my little office. This isn't really an office. This is my washer dryer behind me. You know, it's like that sort of thing. My kitchen is about 3 feet that way, and then my living room is sort of out there where my wife is a lot of the time. So moments of joy or sadness, I'll look over to her. I also have a second monitor where I have all the answers for every match. So where I cheat too. So for that sort of thing.
Of course,
naturally.
But yeah, so it's like my setup is so my living room is that way where my couch is. So that is my setup.
That's awesome. That's
nice.
Great.
Yes.
The setup of many has changed many times. I feel like yours is one of the few that has stayed.
Oh yeah, because like this is, I mean, I haven't moved for like a long time. I mean, I guess when I first started, I didn't even live here. I lived like in Washington, I think, when I first started doing trivia. So I was I wouldn't even imagine, but I've been here for a while. And then sometimes when this computer is malfunctioning or something, I'll have a laptop in the bedroom or something, or something random. Play from a closet, which I think one of you mentioned at one point. Like, are you in a closet right now?
Yeah. Nick has had 87 setups.
I move a lot.
I've had a little less. I've had 3.
I know. So my question for you, Tim, for your setup. So it's like the couch that you normally sit on. Is that in that room that you are in right now?
Yes, it is. It is right behind us here. Yeah.
Fascinating. I was curious. Sometimes you just kind of sit up here. And...
I made a commitment to myself this year that I, in the past, always not just in this setup, but in the first apartment where I started doing this, and then in my last apartment. And this is in my basement, so before the basement was finished, I always did trivia sitting. More professional debate, I sat on the couch and looked like a bum because I didn't care. This chair is very comfortable. I've chosen I'm always going to be here when we're doing stuff. But prior to that, yes, there's a couch directly. I'm right there, like 5 feet away, that I would sit on for debate. And I for Survivor, I did. And then, these shelves, I I hate
they're
them.
growing, right? Do you have more shelf space? Like, is it to add? I guess I see some gaps. Got to work on that. Come on, what are you doing?
Yeah, I hate these shelves, but that's okay. Yeah, those bottom two are all collections that will get moved as the stuff grows. So from like right here, that is a Friday the 13th, Paranormal Activity. That's Terminator, Harry Potter, Twilight. The 50 that Ellie smacked the other day, and Nick made a comment, is Planet of the Apes.
That's pretty
James
cool.
Bond is down there, Hellraiser, and then that's all Middle Earth.
That's awesome,
man.
So
I really think you should open your own Blockbuster.
So
like come to Tim's house and rent a movie. And
a friend of mine from work. So on my letterbox, I have a list called My Blu-ray Collection. It's got, pretty much every movie I own. I used to even include like short films. Like if I have like the Pixar shorts on Blu-ray, I would put all those in the list too. That got a little crazy for me, so I deleted all those. It's just all the feature films now. But it's like 2,000 some Blu-rays. Friend of mine from work, I sent her that link to that list. And so now I send, like, you guys remember the little pouches that you would put, like, keep your CDs in?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Like in the 2000s, yeah. And then
man, those were the days.
Yeah, and like I have one of those, and she'll tell me like a list of like 5 or 6 movies, and I'll just take them out of the case and put them in there and hand her the pouch.
Like the Willy Wonka of like you're like a movie connoisseur, but with like just movie discs or stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the funny thing is it used to be like, oh, that's just a lot of Star Wars. And I'd be like, yeah. And now it's like, oh no, that's just like my tastes have changed, obviously, as I've gotten older.
Sure.
But like, they're just no, it's just a lot of different fucking. It's like,
would you ever digitize? I know we're talking. I don't know how long you normally have a guest, but I'm just curious. Would you ever like digitize like your stuff? Like
I have a little bit in the sense that there was a stretch in 2020, 2021, somewhere in there, where I took advantage of the disc to digital service on Vudu, where you can scan the barcode and you can add it to your collection for $2. I did that. It doesn't have every movie available, so I did it to a lot. I prefer to have the disc for the reasons of services can be shut down at any moment. Of course, it doesn't really happen, but I'm ready for when it does.
It does. You're like an apocalypse shelter. Like people, like when the zombies attack, they're like, "Oh, Tim is all set up right for the supplies." And like, Tim, help us. And you're like, "I have all these DVDs."
Well, and the funny thing is that like there are some that, like when we first added horror icons to Fandom, Rob Zombie's Halloween and Halloween 2 were not available on digital anywhere. You just couldn't find them. And I have them on Blu-ray. So a lot of people, not a lot. I don't know. I was about to say a lot. I don't know how many people. There are people who use unlawful ways to watch films to study for trivia.
No. What?
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't partake in that. I used to a lot. And I'm not going to shame anyone who does, but just as someone who like works in the theater industry, the reason I justify buying so many movies as I do is the example I always give is I saw Endgame 11 times in the theater and I didn't pay for it once. So for me to buy a $30 Blu-ray, I don't mind as much.
It balances the scales, perfectly balanced.
Exactly, as all things should be. But that's the thing is like Wicked. Like I saw it once and I paid for it, and then I saw it twice and I didn't pay for it, at my theater. And so I bought it on digital when it came out, and then I bought the Blu-ray as well. So I spent $60 on it, even though I probably didn't have to. So it's just like, I like having the physical version for lots of different reasons. The main reason is I think it is just like a nostalgia childhood thing of like, and I do the same thing with video games. Like my video game collection is not nearly as crazy as my movies, but that's my video game collection.
Yeah, it's only like 600 or so that's pretty lame.
Those are all video games.
Yeah, it's pretty low key. What are you doing there?
Dude,
yeah,
you should literally open a rental store. Like, come to my basement, pay me $10, take whatever you want, and bring it back in a week.
that is the biggest thing, though. Is I think it is reliving that like video store fantasy type of thing of like that was what we talked about that a lot with Nazario too, of like going to the video store was a real thing that I love. So that's why I love getting them in the mail. I love going to the store and finding something that I wasn't expecting to pick up, and coming home and cracking it open, and it's a good time.
That's why it's so great. Like my project for the last year, I have a movie collection that is pretty sizable or so. Like, there's 100 or so movies, but they're at my parents' house, like, like in a box, because I don't have the space to sort of have them. But so for the last year, I got into really the Plex server aspect. I've been digitizing like all my movies into like the Plex server. So now they're all basically on 2 backup hard drives. I can access them like, whenever I want here, as long as this computer is on. So I'm getting back into like the holding of the stuff of getting the stuff. And one day we'll have, can display a physical media when I have a bigger space.
Nice. That is really the biggest thing, is to have the space. Is not everybody is as lucky as I am to have the space. So
that's why we started buying books, because you guys are going to be screwed when the power goes out forever. Also,
are you a reader too?
I am now. I was not, but now I.
But when the internet goes out,
I try to read now.
I used to only read the ones with pictures, but now
that's fine.
Now I read the words.
Now you read all the words in them and stuff.
Yeah. But listen, Jacob, we have been going a while. This show can go as long as we want.
Sure.
We're the boss. And it's been good shit. But it's almost midnight, Mike.
Sure, that's fair. But I would, just ask. I would love to come back on sometime.
We would love to have you. This is great.
Yeah. No, this is great. I think we should kick it back over to Nick and Tim.
Indeed.
To close it out.
Those guys?
Yeah, those guys. Yeah. But Jacoby, thank you. This was phenomenal. Thanks for being here. Love talking to you. Of course. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
All right, phenomenal conversation. It's not like it almost ended 5 seconds ago. That was a really, really great episode. Really good conversation. Like Nick said, we had Robert on last week. Go check that out. Next week, I don't know what's happening.
I have someone in mind. But
perfect. We'll talk to them about She-Hulk and see how that goes. Thank you so much to Jacoby for being on the show. Thank you to you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time. But I forgot. Nick said it. Debate is starting. Fandom is starting. The
last word is this Sunday.
Yeah, watch it. Lots of work gone into the new matches. Nick is questioning himself now.
No. The last word is this Sunday. Last one standing for Fandom was yesterday, but the first match for Fandom, Dean Manis plays Joseph Olivas, is tomorrow. Yeah.
So really good stuff coming up on the channel. Check it out. Share it around if you are feeling so inclined. But that'll be it for tonight. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same bat channel.